Sir, this line is for first-class passengers only. Mark Benson's voice drips with condescension as he extends an arm, blocking Jamal Carter's path. Jamal exhales slowly, keeping his composure. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, he looks every bit the executive he is. With measured precision, he slides his boarding pass across the counter. Check again. Mark barely glances at it before pushing it back. I don't need to. First class is for premium travelers. Economy check-in is that way. Jamal studies him, noting the sneer, the arrogance. He's seen this before. This is a priority boarding pass. I paid for the first class. Mark leans against the counter, arms crossed. I don't think so. A few heads turn. A woman in line glances at her husband. The unspoken tension settles in the air. Jamal clenches his jaw. He knows exactly what this is. Mark sighs dramatically, then shifts his focus to the next traveler, a white businessman. Good evening, sir, first class. He barely waits for a response before scanning the man's ticket and gesturing him forward. Jamal watches in silence, his grip tightening around his passport. He doesn't move. Mark glances back and smirks. He leans in slightly, lowering his voice just enough for only Jamal to hear. Nice try, buddy. Jamal exhales through his nose, the words cutting sharper than he expected. It's not the refusal, it's the mockery, the deliberate dismissal of his presence. A young woman in line nudges her friend, whispering. A man in a suit shifts uncomfortably. Some avoid eye contact, others pretend nothing is happening. Jamal straightens. You're making a mistake. Mark chuckles, shaking his head. Am I? Jamal doesn't answer, not yet. Mark suddenly steps back, his voice loud enough to cut through the terminal noise. Security! We've got a fraud here. The words slam into Jamal like a physical blow. Around him, conversations halt. People turn, eyes widening. What? Jamal's voice remains even, controlled. Look at my ticket again. Mark scoffs, ignoring him as two uniformed security guards push through the crowd. Sir, we need to see some ID, one of them orders, already reaching for his belt radio. Jamal meets his gaze, then shifts back to Mark. You didn't check my pass, but you're calling security. I don't need to, Mark replies smoothly. People like you try this all the time. A hush falls over the terminal. A phone screen glows. Someone's recording. Another traveler lifts their phone subtly. Jamal's pulse pounds, but his expression remains unreadable. People like me? Yeah, Mark sneers. People who don't belong here. The security guards step closer, hands hovering near their belts. The humiliation burns, but Jamal refuses to let them see it. Look again, he repeats, voice low. Mark doesn't. Instead, he jerks his chin at the guards, escort him out. Before they can grab him, another passenger steps forward. A white businessman, mid-40s, dressed in a casual blazer. Mark doesn't even hesitate. Right this way, sir. The man barely acknowledges him, simply walking through without breaking stride. No ID check, no questions, no accusations. Jamal watches as the businessman disappears toward security. The contrast is glaring. A few passengers shake their heads. A woman mutters, "That's messed up." One of the security guards hesitates, shifting his weight. Even he knows. Jamal breathes deep, steady. Then he pulls out his phone. Jamal dials. The tone rings once. I need you at Terminal 3. Now. Mark's smirk falters. The security guards exchange glances. The energy shifts. Jamal tucks his phone away, locking eyes with Mark. The fire in his gaze is unmistakable. You have no idea who you're dealing with, he says. For the first time, Mark hesitates, the first crack in his confidence. And Jamal knows this isn't over. Jamal Carter didn't inherit wealth, he built it. As the founder and CEO of Sky Elevate Holdings, he transformed a modest startup into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse in aviation infrastructure. His company revolutionized airport efficiency, investing in terminals worldwide to modernize air travel. Despite his achievements, he remains an outsider. The aviation industry is a white-dominated circle, where power is hoarded, and new faces, especially black entrepreneurs, are met with skepticism. Even after securing billion-dollar contracts, the boardrooms remain hostile, the handshakes reluctant. Success doesn't erase the constant need to prove he belongs. Yet, Jamal refuses to be pushed out. He didn't just build a business, he's reshaping the industry. And ironically, today, he's being humiliated in an airport he helped fund. But Mark Benson doesn't know that yet. Jamal's journey wasn't about luck. It was a war. At every stage, investors doubted him, questioning his credentials, dismissing his vision. Competitors attempted to discredit his expertise, pushing him to the sidelines. Even potential partners made it clear. They weren't sure a black man belonged in the aviation business, but Jamal refused to be invisible. He outworked, outsmarted, and outlasted them all. Now, his empire stretches across continents, shaping airports, influencing policy. He is a recognized force in global aviation. Yet, standing in this terminal, being treated like a fraud, proves one thing. Power doesn't protect you from racism. The irony is almost laughable. Jamal Carter owns a stake in this very airport. His investments helped fund its upgrades, improve security systems, and enhance passenger experience. Yet, to men like Mark, he's just another black traveler in the wrong place. Jamal could have walked past this check-in counter without a second thought, knowing his financial influence shaped its operations. Instead, he's being publicly humiliated, denied access to a service he helped build. This isn't just about one man's ignorance. It's systemic. A constant reminder that no matter how much black professionals achieve, they're still seen as outsiders. And today, Jamal isn't letting it slide. Jamal has dealt with subtle racism his entire career. Today isn't subtle. Today is blatant, public, humiliating, and the cameras recording this moment. They're proof. He's always believed in fighting discrimination with quiet power, winning battles in boardrooms, reshaping policies from the inside. But today, silence isn't an option. Jamal tightens his grip on his phone. This time, the battle won't be quiet. Mark Benson thinks he's untouchable. He's about to learn otherwise. "Good morning, sir. Hope you're having a wonderful day." The check-in agent beams at the older white man ahead of Jamal, exchanging pleasantries as she swiftly scans his ticket. When it's Jamal's turn, the warmth disappears. No greeting, no eye contact, just a curt nod. ID and ticket. Her voice is flat, almost annoyed. As he hands them over, a businessman in a crisp suit casually steps in front of him. The agent doesn't react. No reminder to wait his turn, no apology. The man receives a bright smile, a joke about his destination. Jamal exhales slowly. It's subtle, but it's there. The hierarchy, the assumption that he's less important. He notices. He always notices. For now, he lets it go. Jamal steps up to the counter, sliding his documents toward the agent, Mark Benson. Mark picks up Jamal's ID, flipping it once, then again. His lips twist slightly. "Huh?" Jamal watches as Mark takes his time typing, fingers moving sluggishly over the keyboard. "What's the issue?" Jamal keeps his tone neutral. "Might be the system acting up. Give me a second." A minute passes, then 2. The sighs behind him grow louder. Someone clears their throat impatiently. Just then, another traveler approaches. The same businessman who had cut ahead before. "Flying first class to London?" Mark asks with an easy smile. The man nods, handing over his ticket. A few keystrokes later, his boarding pass prints effortlessly. Jamal's fingers tap lightly against the counter. He's seen this game before. He won't play along, but he won't ignore it either. As Jamal waits, irritation simmering beneath his composed exterior, he senses someone watching. A woman stands a few feet away, dressed in a sharp business suit. Her gaze lingers on the interaction, sharp and assessing. She isn't just observing, she's studying. Jamal doesn't acknowledge her directly, but he files it away. People like her. They don't stare without reason. Mark, oblivious to the scrutiny, continues his slow charade. Jamal folds his arms, exhaling steadily. Something is shifting. He doesn't know what role this woman plays yet, but he knows this moment isn't as private as Mark thinks. "Yeah, not seeing anything here," Mark announces, shaking his head. "Are you sure you booked first class?" Jamal barely reacts, but inside, a fire flickers. A couple behind him chuckles. A whisper, "Happens all the time." He recognizes this trap, the careful dance of humiliation disguised as incompetence. The waiting game is designed to test his patience, to see if he'll break. But Jamal knows who he is, and more importantly, he knows who they are. "Run it again," he says, voice calm but firm. "And this time, actually try." For the first time, Mark falters. Just slightly, but the game isn't over yet, not by a long shot. A businessman, slick suit, confident smirk, steps forward. "Look," he says, pulling out his wallet. "I'll cover his ticket. No need for all this." Gasps ripple through the onlookers. Some shift uncomfortably. Others nod, as if this is a reasonable solution. Mark suppresses a grin, thriving in the moment. The guards hesitate. Even they weren't expecting this. Jamal turns, locking eyes with the man. "You think I can't afford my own seat?" His voice is quiet, controlled. The businessman's smirk falters. It's not worth the trouble, man. Let's keep it moving." Jamal stares, the insult weighing heavier than all the injustices before it. This wasn't about kindness. It was about putting him in his place. Jamal inhales deeply. The rage is there, pulsing beneath his ribs. But rage won't help him now. Strategy will. Without a word, he pulls out his phone and dials. One ring, then a voice answers. He speaks calmly, evenly, with authority. "I need you at Terminal 3. Now." The effect is immediate. The businessman steps back. The guards shift, suddenly unsure. Even Mark's smirk twitches, because now there's a question hanging in the air, one that no one considered before. Who is Jamal? And more importantly, what happens next? A sharp click-clack echoes through the terminal. A woman in a crisp business suit strides forward, her presence slicing through the tension. Mark doesn't notice her at first, too caught up in his own triumph. But the second she speaks, his shoulders stiffen. "Mr. Carter, is there a problem?" The room stills. Her voice isn't loud, yet it carries undeniable weight. Heads turn, sensing the shift. Jamal glances at her, his face unreadable. Mark, however, is rattled. "Ma'am, this man was being uncooperative." Mark starts, but she cuts him off with a look so sharp it could slice glass. "Uncooperative?" she repeats, arching an eyebrow. The murmurs in the crowd grow louder. Passengers glance between Monica and Jamal, piecing together what's happening. Mark clears his throat, but the smugness is gone. Something is very, very wrong, and for the first time he knows it. Monica's gaze pierces through Mark, cold, calculated, unshaken. "This is Jamal Carter," she states, her voice firm. A flicker of recognition flashes across Mark's face. His Adam's apple bobs. "Our newest major investor," she continues. "He owns part of this airport." The words detonate like a bomb. A stunned hush spreads through the terminal. Security's grip on Jamal vanishes. One officer even takes a cautious step back. The businessman who had offered to pay for Jamal's ticket shifts uncomfortably, suddenly realizing his mistake. Mark's face drains of color. His reality is crumbling. "Investor?" someone whispers. "Wait, he owns—" Another voice trails off, connecting the dots. Jamal exhales slowly, watching it all unfold. He doesn't move, doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. Power is a silent force when wielded correctly. The crowd's judgment, so quick to condemn, now turns toward Mark, and for the first time, Mark feels the weight of their stares. Jamal steps forward. His posture is relaxed, but his eyes burn with something undeniable. "Would you like to check my ticket again?" His voice is smooth, deliberate. Mark's mouth opens, then closes. No escape, no excuses. just the harsh reality of his own making. "Mr. Carter, I didn't realize," he stammered. The apology is empty and everyone knows it. Passengers watch in silence, their earlier assumptions now twisted into guilt. Jamal tilts his head, unreadable. "You saw what you wanted to see," he says evenly. Mark swallows hard, shame settling in. The crowd waits for what comes next. But Jamal already won. And Mark is just beginning to understand his own downfall. Mark barely has time to process what's happening before Monica's grip tightens on his arm. "Escort him out," she instructs, her voice devoid of sympathy. Security doesn't hesitate. Mark stumbles as they seize him, his protests swallowed by the growing murmurs around him. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding," he pleads. "I was just doing my job. No one cares." Phones are raised, recording every second. Whispers of "racist" and "serves him right" weave through the crowd. The same passengers who once stood idly by now shake their heads in quiet condemnation. Mark's authority? Gone, his reputation? Ruined. Jamal watches the scene unfold, his face unreadable. This isn't revenge, it's something bigger. Justice. Undeniable and absolute. He exhales, straightens his suit and steps forward. He has reclaimed his power, and this time no one can take it from him. As Jamal strides toward first class, a hush follows him. Passengers instinctively move aside, no longer out of fear but respect. Near the aisle, a young black boy stands frozen, eyes wide, absorbing every moment. His small hands clutch his mother's coat, his expression a mix of awe and understanding. Jamal slows, then kneels slightly to meet the boy's gaze. No cameras, no audience, just a lesson meant for him. "Never let them tell you where you belong," Jamal says, his tone firm yet warm. He slips a sleek black business card into the boy's hand. The boy grips it, his fingers curling around the promise it holds. His mother blinks back tears, offering Jamal a nod of silent gratitude. Jamal rises, offering the boy one last glance before continuing forward. The message is received. And the next chapter? Already in motion. By the time Jamal's plane leaves the runway, the internet is on fire. Videos flood social media, captions screaming about racial profiling, corporate bias, and accountability. This is why we need change. Another day, another lesson they should have already learned. The airport scrambles, issuing a formal apology, vowing to implement anti-bias policies and employee training. Online debates rage, hashtags trend, and the world watches, learns, and remembers. Because today, the rules changed. Jamal leans back in his seat, the leather cool beneath him. Through the window, the city below glows, a reflection of where he's been and where he's going. For once, he isn't thinking about the battle he just fought. He's thinking about the next generation, the ripples, the shift that's already begun. A small smile tugs at his lips. He didn't just win today, he changed the game, for himself, for the boy, for everyone who watched and finally understood. And for the first time in a long time, Jamal Carter breathes easy. What would you have done if you were in Jamal's place? Have you ever experienced a moment where you were judged before you even spoke? Racism isn't just in stories. It happens every day. But when it does, how do we respond? Share your thoughts. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Let's turn this from just a video into a real conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you faced discrimination? Witnessed injustice? Tell your story. Because silence lets it continue. But speaking up? That's how change begins. Let's talk. If you believe in justice, stand up. Hit like, share, and subscribe. Spread this message beyond just this video, because the more people see, the harder it is to ignore. Let's make a difference, together.